An Ontario man is calling out Canada's largest airline for canceling his flight home and leaving him stranded in the United States. He claims Air Canada said he was a no-show for his flight from Toronto to Tampa, thereby denying him his return flight, which is in the company's policy. But as CTV's Kathy Lee reports, the passenger says he was on the first flight and has proof.
Flying can sometimes be a rough ride, but an Ontario man says his experience on a recent Air Canada flight was traumatizing.
It really devastated, stressed, and it's one of my worst moments.
The moment happened right before his return flight from Tampa to Toronto. Garth Jackson says he tried to check in but was denied. He claims an Air Canada representative told him his flight was canceled because he was a no-show for his flight from Toronto to Tampa. But Jackson says he was on that flight and had proof.
I had my boarding pass. I do as much as tell them I have my duty-free receipt that shows which I had to scan my boarding pass.
Still, the airline wouldn't let him check in. Instead, he had to book another flight,
which was like over $600. I was now like, where would I get that money from?
An aviation expert says if a passenger no-shows for the first flight of a multi-leg itinerary, the entire trip can sometimes be canceled according to Air Canada's policy.
That's a seat, an opportunity on an airplane that would generate additional revenue if Air Canada could sell it. If the customer is, holding his end of the bargain and he's got documentation to support the fact that he was on the airplane and Air Canada saying, no, you weren't, that to me is a major security issue that has to be looked at.
This is a case of complete and total non-performance. The passenger paid good money for their ticket, and they were not getting the service they had paid for.
In a statement to CTV News, Air Canada says there was an error recording the customer's boarding of the original flight and resulted in the subsequent trips being canceled as per our policy. We are still reviewing the file, but will certainly cover additional expenses that were incurred. Jackson says he also wants an apology and explanation for how an error could have happened. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Calgary.